Hello, thank you for joining me. I'm outside Summerlee Museum of Scottish Industrial Life, and in today's video we're just going to have a walk around the site. It's quite an interesting museum. It's somewhere I haven't been to before, but it's got various different forms of industry preserved. It's free to visit, so you literally can just walk in. As soon as you come in, we are greeted by Scotland's lesser known tramway, unfortunately not running today. It says due to electrical fault. I did know that before I visited, so it's not like I've arrived here disappointed. It would have been great to have seen it running, and so no doubt I will have to visit again to have a ride on the tramway, because to me that probably is their best asset. But there's various other things to see. Look, we're greeted by two steam cranes. There's the big indoor part of the museum. I don't think we'll go in there because it's very echoey in there, and just before I started making the video I did have a quick wander around the site, and there was a lot of school children in there, so it's very noisy. So it's we'll do all the outside bits of the museum. So like I say, we've got a steam crane there and steam crane there, and basically what we'll do, we'll follow the tramway, because as the tramway goes along there's a few interesting things to see. It's funny really with the tramway. Scotland in recent times hasn't had a great history with tramway. The only modern rapid transit tramway it has is in Edinburgh, and as you probably know that overran and became really quite infamous, but they have finally extended its leaf, and I had a trip on it the other day, so hopefully Edinburgh can put its troubled past behind it, and it is a very, very well used tram system, and hopefully it'll see extensions. But Glasgow doesn't have a tram system. It's got a big suburban rail network and of course a subway, and then out here in North Lanarkshire you've got this little short tramway which isn't running. I think looking at it they probably can only run one or two, at the most two trams up and down all day. But take a break from trams for a moment. Here we have a Garratt steam locomotive, fantastic big South African locomotive, of course built here in Glasgow. Look, she's huge. I'd really love to have seen one of these in action. I can always remember when I was a child watching the Great Railway Journeys of the World, when Michael Wood went to South Africa and what was then Rhodesia, and seeing some locos like this and similar in service, it just looked fantastic. South Africa must have been amazing, and it's pretty huge, even though it is of course not standard gauge. It's the South African gauge of 3'6", and there's a few other Garratts that have come to the UK. Of course on the Welsh Highland they have them, but they're the smaller ones. They're the 2-foot gauge Garratts. There's one at Manchester Museum of Science and Industry, because that was a Bay Peacock loco. There's also various other South African locos in the UK. One not so far from here at the Riverside Museum in Glasgow, and there's one at the Buckinghamshire Railway Centre at Quainton Road. So here we are. Her name is Springbrook. She was built in 1956, and she has the works number of 27770. Ah, look at that. Look at this. There's a bit of a mistake here. It says their gauge is 3'6", nothing wrong with that. But since when has the UK had a standard gauge of 5'3". Whoever's written the sign has been getting themselves mixed up with Ireland, because that's the Irish standard gauge. We don't have any railways of that gauge here. Our standard gauge railways are 4'8.5 inches. So yeah, that sign's wrong. Anyway, let's continue to look around the museum. And they could have even just measured tramway track. I know not all trams are standard gauge, but this one is. But yeah, it's good to see, even if they're not quite sure what standard gauge actually is. Look, just as we walk past it, you can just see how big and long she is. So she has two powered axles, and then by being built like this, this gives her the light axle loading, so she could run over fairly lightly loaded lines. So that's what. And it's a fantastic design, the Garratt. And most countries around the world used Garratts. Possibly only really America didn't. You know, Australia has them. Various European countries had them. I think they're a fantastic design. I'm just going to now walk past and let you just admire how long and big she is. I have to go to South Africa one day. I'd love to see some of the preserved steam locos in action. It must just be fantastic to see one of those pounding past you. Just continue along the tramway, It's funny as well, this tramway, because on the other side of the fence you've got modern houses. So if you live in that house when it's running, you've got vintage trams literally going past your front door. So that'd be quite a good place to live. And of course you've got the railway here. The site is effectively, it's got railways all around it, because you've got the line from Coatbridge Central up towards Cumbernauld going that way, and then along the top of the site there's the line through Coatbridge Sunnyside. I actually remember a few years ago, well, probably 10 years ago, I was on a train passing Coatbridge Sunnyside, and I thought, oh, there's some old industrial locos, and now I realised it was all part of this museum. So as I continue along the tramway, there's various other exhibits as we pass of, like I say, all sorts of Scottish industry. Should we break off here off the tramway? Let's go and have a look in this building. So is this it's like a timber mill here? Yeah, so it shows various cut timbers. And then there we've got various lathes which would be used for turning the timbers, and various other bits maybe which have probably been donated as factories have closed. Maybe one day they'll have them in use. Now we're coming to this section here. This is quite interesting. Quite a big bridge here which takes the tramway over the old canal. And this canal would have once been, you know, a major coal carrier and various other industries in Scotland. I'm just looking at the map because I've forgotten the name of it, admittedly. 19 is the Monkland Canal, I thought it was. So the Monkland Canal would have been effectively put out of business by the railways. Built by James Watt, I understand, you know, the famous engineer. And if we look down here from this bridge, there's what's left of the canal. We'll go down and have a proper look at the canal later on. So they've got, as I say, preserved canals, tramways, railways, various other forms of Scottish industrial life. As we get to this point, the tramway turns. There's the miners' workers' village. You can see a coal mine. It says they do coal mine tours here, but I didn't actually see. Don't know if they're doing them today. So the tramway continues on down there. We'll go down there in a minute. Here is the tram shed. So the trams that are here, I think there's only two, there might be a couple more, are in there. Unfortunately they don't have the tram shed open, so I can't go and see them. It would be nice if the trams weren't running, if they could just have the doors open so we could see inside, but anyway, they haven't. We come up to here. Now this is where I first saw the museum about 10 years ago. I was on a train. The birch wasn't quite so bad, grown up, and I could see, I thought, some industrial locos. So maybe we have a little diesel, Andrew Bartley diesel, built in 1966. I know that because I just read the works plate. So that's a diesel industrial loco. This is not a diesel, this is a steam loco. I know it doesn't look like your conventional steam loco shape. To most people I think it is a diesel shunter, but it is steam. It has a vertical boiler, and it drives, sounds very differently because it drives vertical cylinders. You can just see the top of the boiler there. I have seen one in use once at, or not quite like this, but very similar, at the Somerset and Dorset Railway. So if you want to see that video, yeah, have a look at the link on screen. There's the diesel loco, and then here we have, so walk past Robin, and then here we have what most people would think of when they see a steam loco, NCB, National Coal Board. So it sort of looks like, yeah, like you're at an abandoned coal mine. Reminds me when I was in Bosnia about 10 years ago, there were still some steam locos running, but there were various other ones just lying around, looking very much like this. So that's their standard gauge. And I've just spotted another mistake. I don't like picking out mistakes, but sometimes, you know, it says do not attempt to cross the fence, fair enough, to access the platform, fair enough, or the trains. They're locomotives. They become a train when they're pulling wagons or carriages. On their own, they're simply a locomotive, just as if a carriage is on its own, it's a carriage. If a wagon's on its own, it's a wagon. So it should actually say the platform or the locomotive. But yeah, so let's try not to find any more mistakes, but you know, that is as it is. This is, well, there's the pit head gear up behind me. And like I said, that's the main line over there. I wanted to show you down there, they've got like the miners' village, and they've got various cottages of different eras, but that school party are down there now, so I tend to avoid going near groups like that when I've got a camera, so I think we'll just have to miss that. But there was one restored from each era, the sort of thing you'd see if you go to various museums of this type. So down there, that's like I say the junction for the depot. We're back on the tramway now. We've nearly come to the end of the tramway, so it's, like I say, it's not going to be a particularly long video. I just wanted to give you the gist of the site. I will, when they get the trams up and running, I will have to come visit again, because to me the trams would be my main thing. But you know, I knew they weren't going to run, so I'm not complaining about that. I came here knowing the trams weren't running. It's, as I say, the museum is free to visit. I started from on the public road and I simply walked in, and there's been various other gates which we saw that were open, so you can just walk in. You'd pay for the tram rides. There is also an old-fashioned sweet shop again in the miners' village. Is that a train passing? Sounds like it. You can hear a train, and we can see a train. It's all covered up, but this is one of the famous Glasgow Blue trains. It's a class 311. It would have been 3 coaches. Unfortunately, one of the carriages didn't make it into preservation. It's covered up for its own safety. It seems it has been painted at some point. There's a similar class 303 at Bowness. So yeah, these trains would have been everywhere around Glasgow once. I don't remember ever seeing them when I first started coming to Scotland. They'd already been retired, but even if it is all covered up, at least I can say I've seen this one. I'll have to look up, see which one it is, and I'll tick it off in my preserved book of preserved locomotives and EMUs. So there we go. Like I say, that's the end of the tramway. What we'll do, we'll go down these steps down here and have a look at the canal, and then like I say, I think we've kind of done everything there is to do here until the trams are running. We'll definitely come back when the trams are running. Yeah, it's always enjoy a heritage tramway. Just going down here, it feels like now I can hear a train. Don't think we're going to see it. So as I mentioned, there's a line through Coatbridge, Sunnyside there. There's also a freight only line running down that side of the site, so the site has kind of got railways all around it, and of course inside it. But away from railways, we're now going down the hill to the form of transport, which the railways largely made redundant. This is the Monklands Canal. We are down here. So it's a very pleasant museum to walk around. It's certainly a good way. If you're in Glasgow and you want, you know, to spare a couple of hours, come here on the train. You get these tranquil walks by the canal like this. Look, and just up there, that is the bridge which we walked over, which carries the trams over the canal. You can come and, you know, have really pleasant walks by the canal. It's a very pleasant place. I'm not sure if this maybe was to supply the canal, whether it was like a wharf, I'm not entirely sure. The other thing which there is, which we're coming up to, oh, some young swans coming along. We'll finish with formal transport. On the other side of the canal is the old ironworks site, so it's really just the foundations. See these swans here, look, young swans, not quite babies but young. Up here there's a boat, it's called Vulcan, and it would have been a boat that would have worked passenger services on the Forth and Clyde Canal, which of course you can see when you catch the train, depending on which route. If you go over Falkirk from Edinburgh to Scotland, you'll see the Forth and Clyde Canal, and you could have travelled on a boat like that. We'll walk past it, we'll see the ironworks site, and that's where we'll finish. We'll have effectively come full circle. The ironworks are just over there. Up there is the museum, which, like I say, I'm not going to include in the video, but if you come here you get to discover that for yourself. There was one other steam loco in there, various bits of machinery, so it's all very interesting. So this is a boat which you could have travelled, a passenger boat, the Forth and Clyde Canal. So yeah, it would have been quite a fun thing to do. Of course, the Forth and Clyde Canal now has, or or just off it, has the Falkirk wheel, which I've been on a few times, and that's quite an exciting thing to do if you're in the Falkirk area of Scotland. So there we go, there's finishing with boats. So we've seen trams, railways and waterways. I'm going to finish with a view over the site of the ironworks. So like I say, it's worth coming to visit if you're in Scotland. Hopefully the trams will be up and running soon, but it did say on the website that they wouldn't be. We are like a viewpoint over the canal and the ironworks site. So thank you very much for watching. Please do feel free to like, subscribe and comment. One more final view, the ironworks site. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.